you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Raw Knuckles. Hosted by Chris Nilan.
Nilan going ballistic. I love it. He's going to hit his own players. He's a madman. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine. Bring them all out, Nilan, you freak.
It's gonna be sick.
Welcome into the Raw Knuckles podcast here with Knuckles. And, geez, nice to be back. I was idle for a couple weeks over in Hawaii visiting family. And really tough to be in the hockey frame of mind when it's 80 degrees and sunny every day. Days never change over there. No snow, no nothing. Although I did keep an eye on what was going on in the NHL, and that for a couple, 10 days anyway, while I was there, was the Four Nations Cup. And then, unfortunately, the U.S. losing in what was a very good hockey game. But, yeah, so back in town, back in the snow. God, I left at the perfect time. I think I left around February 6th. And the day I left, it started snowing that afternoon. And I just got to tell you, it was nice to miss the 90 centimeters of snow for a while. But I still had to come home to it, and here I am. Hopefully things warm up here, and they are going to in the next couple days. And springtime is upon us. Spring forward, fall back. Spring forward last night. The Habs, unfortunately, did not spring forward. They couldn't spring anything last night when it comes to offense, playing against that Calgary Flames in Calgary. And to discuss with me on this fine Sunday here in Montreal, my good friend and aficionado of the Montreal Canadiens, Tony Marinaro. What's up, Tony?
How are you, Nux? Don't worry about not watching hockey maybe as attentively as you should have for a couple of weeks that you were in Hawaii. According to some, I've never watched a game in my life, but I've been doing this for 22 years.
Yeah, and you don't know anything, and everybody has an opinion. And okay. And listen, I remember those days, right? As a player, you're like, this one's squawking off about the way the team's playing, that one's squawking off. And there's such an adversarial relationship between media and players. You have to deal with the media, especially here in Montreal. But still, when all those guys are out of the room, all the media guys are out of the room, you know what players talk about. And they talk about, especially if you talk negative about the team. And listen, I get it because I've been on both sides. And you got to call a spade a spade. When we talked about this team earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Right? When they weren't winning hockey games, that horrible November, and where they were, and they were going backwards. And we were talking about they're supposed to be in the mix. They were hoping to be in the mix. Well, now they're in the mix. Losing last night, 1-0. What did you think of that game last night?
Look, some people are probably going to say that Canadians don't make a trade and they lay an egg. And yes, they lost the game, but it's not because for a lack of effort. I mean, the Canadiens, that was a hockey game where with a little bit of luck, they could have got a point. I mean, Calgary's goalie, we understand why he's in contention for Rookie of the Year with Lane Hudson. We got a better idea of what he could do. Canadiens battled last night, but, I said this the other day, and I'm going to stick with this between now and the rest of the season. A lot of people understand why Kent Hughes didn't make a trade.
Yeah.
He didn't want to compromise his future. He didn't want to sway away from his plan. He didn't want to overpay. And we get that. But several members of the media were pretty upset and are going to continue to be upset because of selfish reasons for us. So I always preface it by saying, from a hockey standpoint and just a logical standpoint, I kind of understand why he didn't make a trade. He's got a plan. He's not swaying. Credit to him. From a member of the media standpoint, and everyone needs the Canadiens to make the playoffs. Now, we knew that going into the season, there weren't too many people that had them into the playoffs. But let's be honest, Nux. Your show, my show, RDS, TVA Sports, TSN Radio, BPM Sports, Radio Canada, 98.5, you name it, Montreal Gazette, Journal de Montréal, La Presse newspaper, Athletic, anyone who writes or talks about the Montreal Canadiens, our life will be so much easier with the Canadiens in the playoffs. So for all of us, selfishly, from a media standpoint, we're pretty upset about the fact they didn't make a deal. Let's be honest. Agnello and I, on our podcast, we've gone 12 months a year since we've been together talking about the Montreal Canadiens. I've been telling him we got to stop going 12 months a year. He goes, no, we're going 12 months a year. The fans, the viewers, they all deserve it, and they do. Can you imagine when their season ends April 15? May 15, June 15. Then by June, you start talking about the draft. Then the draft comes around, finishes. You start talking about free agency for about a week. But if they're not a player in free agency, what are you talking about the rest of July? What are you talking about the rest of August? So from a media standpoint, everyone's upset. Long story short, it was a tough game last night. It was a playoff game last night. Calgary's been playing really tough games lately. I watched them last game. They were really in it right in the end. They lost 3-2 to Dallas. And you had to battle for every inch of open ice. I thought Dobish gave them a chance, but you can't help but think, Nux, that if they don't make the playoffs by a couple of points, a lot of people are going to look back on March 7th.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not unhappy with what happened here, to be honest with you, in not making any moves, because I've been on both sides of it. And I know what it's like to sit there at trade deadline and wondering if you're going. I also know when you lose players, how it affects you as a team. You know, I heard, Nick Suzuki talking about how he was happy no one got traded and that the management has some belief in this group. And I get that. I also heard on your podcast, Brian Wild saying, well, you could have gave up 2 second rounds and got a second line center. Like, really? One that's really going to make a difference? Really? Do you think so? And then, even if you do, it's no guarantee. And okay, who cares about the 2 second rounders, okay? All right, it's gone. But are you really going to find that guy that's going to make that difference? And listen, it's quite possible, but I don't think so. And I just look at this group, and we know what happened in November, how far they were out of it. Do you think if they're 10 points out right now, that Ken Hughes starts making moves? Do you think he does it then?
No.
Well,
if they're 10 points out, I mean, at that point, Nick Suzuki isn't going to see him and asking him to keep everyone there. So he's selling. If they're 10 points out. Because the plan going into the season was to sell. Now, look, if I take a look at all the trades that were made, I don't really see a couple of draft picks going for a really good second line centerman. Didn't see that. So to be fair to Kent, you don't see that. I think what some people, and once again, I want to preface this by saying that I think Kent Hughes set the framework for what's going to happen in the summer. This is what I believe he did. I believe that he made his calls. I believe that he found out who's available, who's not, who could be, and who could be in the summer. He knows what it's going to take. And I believe he's got an action plan in the summer, and I believe he's going to execute on it, because there's no way the Canadiens are going to go into next season with Kirby Dach as their number 2 centerman. And if they do, then we're really going to make them have it. So I understand everything. If I take a look at the players that were dealt, I don't see that kind of deal really to be made for the Canadiens, or to be had for the Canadiens that we were talking about, that everyone wanted them to go out and get a second line centerman. Like, for example, Dylan Cousins, I don't know if the Canadiens had a Josh Norris, and if Buffalo would have wanted the exact opposite of a Josh Norris and they wanted a young prospect like a H, personally, I would not have done it. That's me. I know Pierre Maguire was on the podcast. He said he would have given up a Michael H for Cousins. I wouldn't have. He would have. I respect his opinion. I think why some people are upset is maybe that trade wasn't there. But he has to find that trade. He has to make it happen. He had up until, but you raised a good point, because some are going to say he had up until March 7th, but you're going to say Yeah, but they started turning it on as of the 20th of December or whatever it is. Who would have thought they would have gone on that run? So now all of a sudden, you don't have 5-6 months to prepare for it. And then they went on a big losing streak, and they only started winning games again after the Four Nations face-off. So I think some people are saying that Kent Hughes is paid millions of dollars and Jeff Gorton is paid millions of dollars to go out and make that trade. But I haven't lost confidence in Gorton and Hughes. I think the Canadiens are going to be really good, and I think they're going to be really good for a long time. I will say this. At the beginning, before the season started, my prediction was they would be in the mix, but not make the playoffs and be a couple of points out. And I haven't changed my prediction about that all season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to miss the playoffs.
Quite honestly, I felt the same. I said they're going to miss the playoffs. Could they be nipping at the door? Yes. And that seems like where they are now. I still don't believe they're going to get it done. There's, 19, 20 games left here, and it's going to be extremely difficult because there are other teams in the mix too. Other teams have a say in this. Ottawa, Detroit. So it's certainly going to be interesting, and I think it's when we hear them talk a lot about the process and this process that they're in, and not so much the results, the process. Part of the process is going through what they're going through right now. Yeah. These guys are playing in those important games, those games that mean something. Like I heard the coach say, every game seems like a game 7 for them. And it does. So these guys are certainly getting that experience through battling through types of games you have to win, like last night, losing a 1-0 game. It's so funny. How Calgary's become. I remember back in '86 when we won the cup and we kind of snuffed Calgary out. We took away a lot of their offense in the way we played. And Cliff Fletcher was so frustrated. He says, we don't play like, he was quoted in the newspaper saying, we don't play like that out west the way they play here. That safe hockey. And, they seem so frustrated. Well, there's Calgary. Yeah, Calgary doing the same thing last night that we did in '86, and certainly they played it to a T. They don't have a lot of scoring, and if you're a smart bench coach, you're gonna give your team the best opportunity to win. And the Habs are quick. They got some speed. They got some offense. They can score off the rush. But we saw it in the first period how Calgary. Again, they've just come off a road trip. Yeah. They had to play a smart game, and they did. And certainly the goaltender made a big difference. I thought the Habs were going to tie it up last night, the end. It's amazing how long they had that puck in the zone and the opportunities they had when they pulled the goaltender.
Now, there's some positives coming out of last night's game, too. I mean, it's not like Lane Hudson had to show us anything else, but, my cousin texts me just early on in the game already, and he's like, Lane Hudson's an alien. He was of all the attacks, he was of all the transitions, he was of all the offensive plays. He was everywhere. And you know what? Lane Hudson shows up every game.
Yep.
But you just get the feeling watching from the outside that when he's playing in a game also versus he knew that he was going up against the Calder candidate too last night, I think, anyway. And he wanted to play well. And I'm sure Wolf did the same thing. And that's not why they played well. I mean, they played well because, the two teams are trying to get into the playoffs and all that stuff. But, the way you said it, hockey's not a complicated game, right? You have the horses, you can play wide open. You don't have the horses. You got to play tight, and you got to do what you got to do. And you got to sit there and defend well, and you got to counter, and you got to wait for your chances. But even the best teams with the horses, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty in the playoffs, in the final, there only might be a goal, 2, 3 goals scored in the whole game. Take a look at Florida, Edmonton last year, Game 6, Game 7. Tight.
Yeah.
So
you got to look at those stingy teams, all right? You got to be able to score goals, I get it. But you look at the Jets, goals against, 2.30. Capitals. I'm going down the line here. Caps, 2.57. Stars, third spot overall in the league, 2.60. Florida Panthers, 2.69. Vegas, 2.68. And when you get down to the 17th, all right, Blues are the 16th team in the league, and they're just under 3 goals against a game. Everybody else, 17 and beyond, are all over 3 goals a game.
Yeah.
So you're giving up over 3 goals a game. Chances are you're not going to win in this league. You see it. Again, you have to obviously score goals, but there's like, I don't know, 8? Is it about 8, 9 teams that are over 3 goals a game?
Yeah.
Not many. So 8, 10. Yeah, 10. About 10, 11 teams are about over 3 goals a game. So average.
Now, if I can, just because I want to play devil's advocate here, okay? You have 2 people on the Raw Knuckles podcast right now who totally understand why Kent Hughes didn't make a move. He wasn't willing to deviate from the plan. He didn't want to compromise the future. He did not want to overpay. He has another plan. He was probably putting in place the framework for a possible deal or 2 in the summer, yada, yada, yada. We understand everything. Here's, just to play devil's advocate, though, here's something that is troubling, though, okay?
Okay.
So you got 20 games left in your season going into last night. You're a couple of points out of a wild card spot. You got Patrick Laine, who's not playing because of the flu. So you're calling on Mike Pezzetta to play his 15th game of the season. So for 48 games, you've basically told Pezzetta he's not good enough to crack your lineup. Everyone's seen that. When he does play, he plays 5 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And last night, with all due respect to Pezzetta, I say this, of course, right? It's also putting him in a difficult spot. With all due respect to him, Laine's not playing. Pezzetta's playing. You're 2 points out of a wild card. There's 20 games left in the season. A lot of people are going to say, you couldn't go out there and get a player?
Yeah.
You couldn't call a player up?
Yeah.
You know, like, Mike Pezzetta's an honest worker. He's a really good guy. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say any bad word about him.
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy, okay?
Yeah.
But there's no one in Laval that can help you more than when Pezzetta. They played him again less than 5 minutes, and Marty knows now.
Yeah.
Like, Marty knows, like, everyone's going to look at him and say, like, Marty, you played Pezzetta 5 minutes, so now he even tells you in the press conferences, yeah, you know what? It was hard. I got to overplay a couple of guys. Mike played 5 minutes, but he played really well.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Do you pluck someone out of Laval and bring them up? You know, I get it, but yeah, they're on the road. He's thinking, well, put them in, use them, get running around, try and create something, but then only use them 5 minutes. I get it. You know, I haven't talked to you about it yet. That's why I want to bring it up. But Jake Evans signed here for years, Tone, right? All we heard, guys don't want to play here. The taxes are too high. The language, blah, 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 all this. And here's Jake Evans.
Yeah.
Has a chance for the first time to go to free agency, and he opts to stay here. What did you think of the signing?
I think Jake Evans is he's everything you want in a player. He's heart, he's soul, he's honest, he's a worker. I think it's amazing. I think not enough players do that in sports nowadays. I think not enough people do that with their employment. He was at a place that he loved, and he wanted to stay there, and he knew he could have got more money somewhere else. And you heard it from him, eh? His bags were packed. Like, I can tell you that the place that he's living in old Montreal, it was set to be painted. Like he was going out, they were painting, and like you said, his bags were packed. He told his teammates that he thought he was gone. He told his former teammates that he thought he was gone. Toffoli was in town a week prior, and they were talking about that he was going to move on. And then he wakes up 3 days before the trade deadline. His agent had every interest to try and sign him to the biggest contract as well for Jake and for himself. His agent only had two players in the NHL. He's telling Jake, you're going to get your money on the open market. Jake wakes up 3 days before trade deadline, picks up the phone, calls his agent, says, listen, I'm happy in Montreal. My wife's happy in Montreal. We've been sad for the last month. We're really emotional. Our friends are here. We love it here. We love the coach. We love the teammates. We love the management team. We love the city. We love everyone. We want to stay. So he said, okay, let's do it. I think it's amazing.
I do too.
The contract's amazing for the Canadiens. And it's not a terrible contract for Jake Evans. He could have got more, though. Let's be honest.
When you say could have got more, do you think, let's say on how many years and how much money more do you think he could have got?
So when I looked at Jake Evans' situation, I said, if I'm the GM, I'd be willing to give him a 3-year deal at $10 million. Now, he ended up getting a 4-year deal, and he got a 2.85 instead of 3.33.
Yeah.
Look, we don't know. It's hypothetical at this point, right? But I feel pretty comfortable in saying that I think a GM would have offered him a 4-year deal at 3.5 to $4 million a year on the open market. I believe that. I believe that.
And I said it, the grass isn't always greener. And here's a kid who got his opportunity here. Remember how it all started in Laval with the concussion? He had some setbacks, and he's really evolved and grown into an awesome player for this team. Really good player. No problems off the ice. Great teammate. Great in the face-off circle. Penalty killer. He plays well 5-on-5. Yeah. Really... I was so happy to see him stay because, again, for years, this organization got knocked for people not wanting to be here. And maybe that goes a long way for this team.
We know it's not going to be easy to sign players in unrestricted free agency, right? In Montreal, it never is. Not to say that they haven't signed any, because they have. But it's more difficult than it would be in a Tampa Bay, a Florida, a Los Angeles, an Anaheim, a San Jose, a Dallas, New York. List goes on and on. This sends a really nice message. I mean, there's a lot of players that are going to look at this and say, hey, players want to stay in Montreal. They want to re-sign with the Canadiens. So, we'll see. Look, Demidov's coming next year. It's going to be good. But there's no guarantees they make the playoffs next year.
No, there isn't. But the thing is, do we? Then you got to think Reinbacher coming in. Yeah. After being down in Laval, Goulie's hopefully back healthy. Certainly missing when you think of Kirby Dach. I mean, my God, I feel so bad for this kid.
Yeah, so do I.
I don't know what happens from here on out with this guy. I mean, does he come back to camp next year and try and make the team again? What goes on with it? I can't imagine what's going through his head, this poor kid.
He'll be on the team, obviously. He's got a year left of his contract, but I cannot see him playing center for this team next year. I try and envision it. I don't see it, Nux. I don't see it. And look, it's too bad, okay? Like, for me, he's a very frustrating player. I'm sure he's a great kid, okay? Yeah. He's a frustrating player because you look at him and you see so many tools, right? Yeah. But I've never seen the entire package as a centerman. I see him I see him having a good career as a winger. But to be a centerman, you need to have that hockey sense. You need to have that commitment. You need to have that a dedication, that 200-foot play, that hockey sense. There's some of those things I don't think he fully has. I don't think he has. And so, but at the same time, I've never been through an injury in my life. I never played anything, but I never been through.
Yeah, you hurt your ass at the soccer game, didn't you?
I did, yes. But
tailbone.
I'll say this: I could just imagine tearing your ACL and your MCL, how tentative you must be. Like, it must be so difficult to want to play in traffic. And I get it. They're athletes, right? So you guys are different. You're wired differently than we are. But even athletes, some of them must find it so tough to be able to bounce back mentally from an injury like that, going into contact, taking a hit, making a hit. So he's in a bad spot. I feel for him because not easy.
Yeah, Tony. Listen, I didn't have my ACL, but I had my MCL. My first injury was like 8 years into my career here in Montreal, and I remember hurting my knee. And I skated the bench, and I could tell it was wobbly, it was loose, there was something off. Anyway, I had I got up the next day, I couldn't bend my leg at all, my knee, and I had a 2+ tear in my MCL. I remember coming back from it. First time I got on the ice, I had the brace on. In the first couple games I was playing, I was brutal. I was worried about hurting my knee. I was trying to protect my knee. I wasn't playing the way I can play the game. So I finally said, you know what, I'm taking this. I took the brace off, and I said, listen, I got to go out and play. If I get hurt, I get hurt. I just got to go play.
Wow.
Yeah, I took the brace off. I threw it in the trash. I was done with it. It was so restrictive. And even if I kept the brace on, I had to stop skating around like I got to protect myself. And that's what I was doing. I was worried about getting hurt. So I can certainly empathize with him when certainly the early going, he was worried about that. You could tell he was on his head. He was being a little protective of himself, and he wasn't playing his game. And then it seemed to me when he started playing pretty well this season that he started taking more risk and doing things and being more aggressive. And, that's a part of the game you can't let go. And when you're trying to guard against getting hurt, you're not going to you're in your head. You're not playing your game.
The two injuries too, eh? The one last year, the hit from Jared Tenorti, and the one this year, the hit in Ottawa. Both hits, like, they're big hits. I mean, the one versus Chicago.
They looked harmless, though, right?
But you would have never thought he would have injured his knee on the play.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Josh Anderson's knee bend really, really badly this year. A lot worse than that.
Yeah.
And luckily for him, like, he doesn't get injured. And these hits.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
But listen, you said to yourself, forget about it. I got to go out. I got to play. Forget about the brace. But that's hard to do. Like, that's hard. I don't know if he's talked to somebody, but I would imagine some players too. Like, they need to talk to somebody to say, hey, you gotta go back and play the way you always did, because or else you're never going to be able to.
And you can talk to all the people you want, but in the end, it comes down to you, right? And that's what I ended up doing. And I had to listen to myself, and I knew it wasn't happening. Lane Hudson, obviously, we talked about his game last night, but if he has the most points of rookies at the end, does he win the Calder Trophy?
I think yes.
Yeah,
I think yes, but I don't think it's decided right now, obviously, right? There's 20 games left.
Nip and tuck, yeah, right?
There's 20 games left, and this is going to go down to the wire for me. Look, we've had a chance to see him a lot more than we've had to see everyone else. Wolf is an amazing story, eh?
He is.
38 games, 22, 12, and 4, 252 goals against average, 915 save percentage, and he's not playing in front of the Soviet Union, eh? He's playing in front of an average team. Yeah. I think he's an amazing story, but the reason why, personally, I have Hudson ahead of Wolf right now is because when it comes down to these awards, I think the goalie gets hurt by not playing the same amount of games as the other players, right? Hudson, Lane Hudson has played 63 games.
Yeah.
Dustin Wolf has played 38. So that's 25 games difference, Nux. It's not double, but I mean, 75% more? I mean, it's a lot of games. So, and here's a guy who's small, who we would have thought probably they would have gone the way of load management with him. We would have thought that on some nights he would have been the 7. On some nights he would have been the 6th. Who would have thought that 63 games in, Lane Hudson would be right now playing like the best defenseman on the team? Because if we take a look at the 63 games and their play, forget about who's got the most ice time and all that stuff or whatever, and Matheson's really good. But Hudson's been the Canadiens' best defenseman this season. Who would have thought that?
No. You kidding me? I think what everybody thought when this kid come in, that he's going to get hurt because he's so small. He's going to get run over. He's not going to be able to handle it in the defensive zone. And again, smaller players got to play smarter. And I've seen it from this kid. He's so elusive. Now, listen, it could come one day where his size ends up hurting him. And I think one of the places it could come and could happen is in the playoffs when everything gets magnified. Every shift, every period, forget about it. Every time you touch the puck, someone's going to hit you. Someone's going to finish you. So, and again, that's down the road. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. NHL, Tone, trade deadline.
Yeah.
Surprise at all? I listen. The Marchand thing, like, I was kind of shocked. I just never saw him leaving Boston. This guy.
I'm not shocked at all that they traded Marchand. Marchand showed signs, I think, also this year where he was a little bit frustrated with some of the things that went on in Boston.
Yeah.
They didn't get nothing for him.
Right.
Like, if you're going to trade Marchand, and I get it, he's had his better years. He's
36, right?
He's got a couple of years left in the National Hockey League. He's not the player that he used to be. But if you're going to trade him, the team that's acquiring him is saying, with this guy, we think we got a good chance to win the cup. With this guy, we think, we can go far in the playoffs. That's a lot of value to a team like that. Like, to say, if we add this guy, we think we can go to the end. That's value. Like, you got to. Yeah. The Bruins didn't get much for him, and now with Elliot Friedman giving us some of the information that earlier in the week, Marchand met with Sweeney and or Neely and said, "Listen, we've been talking about a contract extension. I'm looking at compromising on my end." And you know what? Let's get it done. And they trade him after that. That's pretty crazy. I hate it, Nux.
Yeah.
When guys are with an organization for over a decade, they're big time players for that organization. They've given everything, and it ends badly.
Yeah.
I find it sad.
Listen, that's the thing, right? And that's the tragedy of all athletes. We all get older, right? And you can't do it anymore. And I'm not saying he can't, but he's older now. The sway isn't the same. He doesn't have the same sway as he did.
But treat him with respect, though. If he's not going to be part of your plans, like, you just be up front with him. I mean, this he's going to be playing in alumni games for the Bruins one day. Like, he's going to be in the room with all the alumni. They're going to be doing stuff together. They're going to be doing signings together. Like, he's going to have a sour taste in his mouth for the rest of his life. Just treat him with respect. If you don't think he's part of your plans, just tell him, sit down and say, "Listen, Brad, it's great that you came to see us, but a couple of things have changed over the last little while. We've decided that we're going to go in another direction, right? We love you just the same. You're always going to be welcome back with the Bruins, but we'd like to trade you." And based on what we're hearing, they never told him that. I mean, until the very last minute where he found out he was getting traded, and
Well, and again, the one place he wanted to go was Florida, so they accommodated him there.
At least that, yes.
Listen, the Bruins got rid of who? Bobby Orr, Ray Bork, right? Yeah. When you think of it, like, hello.
Bork has to be traded, though.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
But again, it's tough. How about what Colorado did, does that really bolsters their middle big time when you think Nelson and Coyle, the size up the middle, like hello.
They're going to be tough. They're going to be tough, but I look at that West. You know, Florida's a really good team in the East.
Yeah.
I think Florida's the best team in the East, personally. Toronto's got a shot, but I think Florida's the best team in the East. We'll see what happens. But I think the best teams are in the West. I think Dallas is great. I think Colorado's great too. I think Edmonton's very good. I think Winnipeg has a shot, but they're going to kill themselves in the West. Like a lot of people are saying, well, the Stanley Cup winner is going to be in the West. Yeah, but they might end up killing themselves. They might get there, and they might be just have nothing left.
I wouldn't count Vegas out either. You know,
really, eh?
I wouldn't count them out. I mean,
they say
in their division too. Hello,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
coming out of that, you know, Pacific, yeah. You know, you got the, you know, Oilers, Kings, the Wild, the Flames in the hunt, right? So
the Oilers sent the Stars. Like I thought the Stars sent a serious message to everyone in the last week with acquiring Rantanen and all that stuff. But the Oilers sent a serious message to Dallas too. They were up 5-1 in that hockey game at one point last night. And by the way, one of the things to keep an eye on is going to be Rupi Hintz. Did you see, by any chance, did you see what happened last night in the game?
No, I didn't.
Evan Bouchard tees one up.
Yeah.
He sticks out his stick. He wears his visor high. He wears his visor high. Anyway, it catches him. He falls to the ground. Like he's kicking with his skates on the ice, like in pain. And you see quite a bit of blood. And anyway, so we'll see what happens there. Agnello and I were on a group chat last night because we have him in our pool.
Oh, that's why you're watching. Poor Rupe Hintz.
so Agnello and I and another friend of mine we partnered up and we entered a hockey pool at the beginning of the season. There's 12 teams in the pool, and you got to pick 16 players, 12 forwards and 4 defensemen. And there's even auctions during the season. It's a pretty big pool, and we're in first place. And we had like a 24 point lead or something last week. And now we're down to like, I don't know, I think we're up by like 12 or whatever. And we have Jason Robertson of Dallas.
Yep.
Granlund of Dallas. Rupe Hintz of Dallas. And Marchment of Dallas. We got 4 Dallas players. And Rupe Hintz was one of the most productive players since the Four Nations face-off. So we wish him well, not only for him, but we wish him well also selfishly for us.
Yeah, for sure. Who's the head GM there? Is it you or is it Agnello? Is he assistant GM Agnello? Or is he
I would say that there were 3 people, myself, Agnello, and Carmen. I would say that on this team, in all humility, I am the GM, the coach, the scout. Agnello just shows up. Has a coffee, listens to us talk, and that's about it.
Well, you talk about Rupe Hintz. You saw Heineman get hit last night in the head, in the ear, right? It looked like right around his ear. It's good to see him come back. I like this kid. There's no question. Good player. Tone.
He's not a Skrulin or a McPhee or a Claude Lemieux, but you know, like in the 80s when you guys won the Stanley Cup in 86, like it was such a key line. Like you need everybody, right? And you take a look at the stats with Heineman in the lineup and Heineman out of the lineup, and you understand that he's not just a 4th line player. He's a good player.
Yeah,
He's a
really good player. You can move him up and down the lineup. That kid, there's no question. You know, and I'll liken him to Tori Lehkonen.
Arturi Lehkonen, yeah.
You know, a guy you could move up and down the lineup. Look when he went to Colorado, Lehkonen, and they moved him up in the lineup. They had him on the power play. He was scoring goals in the playoff for them. If you would have they won the cup, right?
It's funny you say that. If you would have had Arturi Lehkonen playing on the top line with the Canadiens, like everyone would go nuts here.
Yeah, they would go crazy. What's he doing there?
but he's playing on the top line of a much better team,
right?
with one of the two best players in the world,
Right.
and along with Martin Nikash. That's their number one line. McKinnon, Nikash on his right, and Lehkonen on his left. No, he's a really good. You know what I feel bad about? So, look, I also think that Heineman's having a good season because he found chemistry with Evans and with Armia. They play against other teams' third and fourth lines. They play against second or third pairing defensemen. I think that's part of it. Having said that, I'm disappointed that when guys were slumping, he never got a taste of
He
playing
never got up top.
a shift on the first line.
Yeah.
Like who knows what Heineman would have looked like with Caulfield and Suzuki.
Yeah.
And maybe it wouldn't have worked out. But there was times when the line was slumping where at the beginning of the season where it would have been worth a chance. I mean, now they're playing well.
Yeah, you put him up there and give him that little taste and see if he can be that bulldog and get in and get the puck and make things happen for those guys.
But now, speaking of top line, so it's a couple of games in a row now. Like, watch. Kent Hughes said that he spoke. Suzuki went to see him and said to him, he said, Kent, don't trade away our UFAs.
Yeah.
And Kent said, listen, Nick, if you're going to tell me that, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Put the team on your back. Show me what you can do. And give me reason why I shouldn't trade them. And if you do, I won't trade them. So he says, we went on a run of 5-0, and Suzuki had 13 points in 5 games, and good for him, and credit to him, and I didn't trade the guys. But because they didn't make a move, and because if there's an injury, Marty St. Louis doesn't play Pizzetta more than 5 minutes a game, and because Owen Beck's in the lineup and they don't completely trust his game, he had 11 minutes yesterday, and I think he had 8:22 the game before. Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield are playing 24 minutes a game.
Yeah, playing a lot. Yeah.
Like, how are they going to do that for the next 20 games?
Yeah, you run out of gas at some point. I don't care. Look at Edmonton in the playoffs last year, okay, against Florida. That game 7. The end, they were so overused, those guys.
The last 2 games, they had no juice.
Nothing.
Nothing.
And especially at the end when they were trying to tie that game up. And I get it. The coach said, I got to go with these guys. But he kept putting them out. When he put them out, they didn't have a chance to recover on the bench, and they were dead. They were dead at the end. You just didn't have it. You got in their face easily. And, certainly that can happen. But, face-off thought, Owen Beck last night, 8-3, 73%. But Nick Suzuki, 18-5.
Suzuki was amazing in the circle.
It's unbelievable how good he was in the face-off
Suzuki
circle.
was amazing in the circle last night. Yeah, he really was.
It was. I just couldn't believe it.
I think that's the best game that he's had in the circle all season. I could be wrong though, but I think it was. The best one. Nux, if I can though, it was Evans that went 8 for 11.
Sorry, yeah,
That's okay.
Sorry,
yeah,
not Owen Beck.
Beck
sorry.
went 2 for 4.
Yeah.
He was 50%,
Yeah.
and Suzuki obviously was 78%. Dvorak was 63%. Canadiens had a good night in the circle last night.
Yeah, they did, no question. Listen, what do you think of Florian Jacki down in Laval?
Love him. But you know what? I love his brother too. I mean, the parents, they brought up a couple of really, really honest, hardworking boys that any team would want to have on their hockey team. And I was wrong about something.
Bring it.
I was wrong about something. I thought last year and up until the first 20 games of this season, I thought that Jaden Struble was a better hockey player than Arber Xhekaj. And maybe he will be, right? But I wanted Xhekaj on my team, but I thought Struble was the one that had the higher ceiling. Xhekaj's ability, and he makes me think a little bit about you, or a guy like Lyle Oderline. I know you're different positions, but just hear me out on this, is that, everyone knew that you were good hockey players, but at times you showed us that you were better than we thought. Like everyone knew Chris Nilan was a good hockey player, but when he scored 20, hey, this guy can play. Well, yeah, he can play, but we knew he could play before. But did we think he could play at this level? When Jack Guy decided something, when Jack Guy turned it around, he surpassed Struble.
Yeah.
And now I'm saying, you know what? Maybe his ceiling is bigger, but I want Florian Jack Guy. I don't know how much more Florian Jack Guy is going to. He might need another season in Laval. I don't know, but I want him on the Montreal Canadiens one day.
Yeah, and we'll see, right? Because what's going to happen in the offseason here? There's guys going to be moving out, right? All right, he kept them here. They don't make the playoffs. Guys are going to be moving on. And they're going to have to look at that fourth line seriously. And the reason why I brought up Florian Jack Guy, the other day I looked at his stats.
Yeah.
Now, my stats in the American League, because I look at us as similar players, okay? 49 games he had the other day. He now has 52. When I was in the American League, I got called up. I had 49 games. I had 15 goals and 10 assists.
Wow, he had 15 goals too.
Right now, 52 games. He had 14 goals. But now, 52 games, 15 goals, 10 assists, 25 points. Exactly what I had in the American Hockey League in my development, and 137 penalty minutes. And if we kind of weigh that against 304 minutes, it doesn't. But in today's game, 137 is a lot, right?
Now, think about this. You know how many players have 15-plus goals and 100-plus penalty minutes in the AHL?
Yeah.
So I don't know today, but I checked 3 days ago. Guess how many players?
Not many. Two. There you go.
Jack Guy and Alex Belzil.
There you go.
Yeah, 2 players in the entire AHL.
So that development, I mean, he's showing he can play too. Not just, he's had some great fights. Been there. I'm dying to see this kid in the NHL one day, and certainly alongside his brother. And you said it about Abba, and listen, watching what happened with him getting sent down, and I thought they were messing with him a little bit, but I got to give Marty credit. Like we don't know all that goes on there.
Yeah.
And like I said, when everybody loves you in the city, like they did, they took to him. There's a new sheriff in town. That can be pretty intoxicating for a young kid. So maybe they had to put him in his place a little bit, and they did. And a credit to him, he went down there the first time he gets sent down there. He was a little pissed off, but he turned it around. He ended up coming back. I love what I see from him, and I'm always going to be a fan. I don't care what he does.
Yeah,
I'm always going to be a fan.
This is what I like. What I like is, so they sent them down last year.
Yep.
They benched them at times after a couple of mistakes. He didn't see the ice again in the last year. He was a healthy scratch last year. And when he came back, he actually even had to apologize to where he said he apologized to not that he had to, but he told us that he apologized to the coaches after taking a couple of bad penalties. And I think which was 2 penalties in a game, I think was versus the Islanders. This year, he has that game where he takes that, he gets 3 seconds in the third period.
Yeah.
After all they've been through, he never lost them, right?
Yeah.
Jack, I just came back and played better hockey. Never lost them. But I have an exercise for you because you brought up Florian Jack, right? I have a piece of paper here, okay?
Yeah.
Let's talk about players that are not on this team this year that will probably, full-time, that will probably be on this team next year, okay? So, the most logical. At the forward position, Demidov, right?
Yep.
Is Owen Beck going to be on this team next year? Let's put a question mark, okay?
Well, listen. Dvorak isn't.
Correct?
So
I
Owen
would
Beck,
think Beck is going to be on the team. So let's say Beck, okay?
You got to put him.
Oliver Kapanen,
Yeah.
okay? Florian Jack-Eye,
Yeah.
okay? So 1 for certain, Demidov. Let's say 2 for certain, Beck, if Dvorak's not back. But it could be 4. It could be 4.
Yeah.
It could be 2 to 4. What am I saying? I don't think they bring back Armia.
Yeah, it's hard to bring Armia back then, but it depends on what kind of money you get him for. Is he going to take a cut and pay to stay here?
Okay, so, and listen, if he does, they could bring him back. But if they bring him back, the four of them are not making the team.
Yeah, I got
right?
you. Yeah.
So if they bring him back, Kapanen is probably going to start with Laval. Jack-Eye will be in Laval. But if Kapanen and Jack-Eye, or Kapanen or Jack-Eye make the team, then he won't. Unless they make a trade in the offseason and some of the players that are taking up a spot are traded away. But I mean, I don't see Josh Anderson moving in a trade. I don't see Brendan Gallagher moving in a trade. I don't,
Well, Dvorak out, right? Pizzetta probably see it, right? So there's two spots. Beck's already here. So that's one guy would have to be down in Laval.
Yeah,
right?
but that Pizzetta spot of a 13 guy, like that's got to go to a veteran.
Yeah.
Like you can't put a young player in the 13 hole and make him play 15 games a season, 20 games a season.
Yeah, that's right.
Like on defense too, like the guy that's going to be the number 7 has to be a veteran. Can't be a young player being your number 7 defenseman.
So you got Gooley coming back, right?
Yeah.
He gets healthy, saved back. And you got our man down in Laval right now.
Yeah.
Coming back from that injury. So
you mean Reinbacher?
Yeah. Right. So those two in the mix. When you're looking at, you got Matheson, Carrier, Stribble, Hudson, Savard, Jack-Eye right now. You got those two.
Savard's contract is up at the end of the year.
I get it, but you're talking about that veteran. Who's that veteran going to be?
So if he would say to you, and you're Kent, and he would say to you, Kent, my family loves it here. I think next year is going to be the last year of my career.
Yeah,
I'd love to spend it in Montreal. I'd be willing to be the number 7. I'd be willing to play every other game. I'd be willing to mentor the young players. You know what? I'd bring him back as a 7.
I'd be ready to play for league minimum for a year.
I think, $1 million. Yeah. You got it because you're giving, Jack-Eye 1.3. Let's say this guy wants to come back, 1-year deal, $1 million. I give it to him.
Yeah.
The guys love him.
Yeah.
He'll be okay if he's a healthy scratch because he will have already accepted that role.
Yeah.
On condition of him coming back. And you make your other guys come up when they're ready.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting the rest of the way here. I'm really I like what they're doing. Listen, I know it's easy to say now because they're in the mix, but think of November where we were. We were questioning the coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Management, what's going on? And they were adamant about sticking to the plan. And listen, these guys respond pretty well to Marty, right? They really he's done a good job with these kids. And listen,
Marty deserves credit.
Yeah, he does. And I think he had to feel some things out because, I was talking about this team and playing in the defensive zone and playing that zone defense. And they were playing kind of hybrid zone defense. And now you watch, they are man on man. And it's so obvious now when someone misses their man. Like on that goal last night.
Yeah.
I didn't like the coverage at all. There was a mix-up there in the coverage.
Yes.
And it ended up costing him. And Heineman come out, and he was playing almost like he was killing a penalty, taking away the pass.
Yeah.
And he should have been going right at his D-man. Mia was off, but he was high in the slot. He wasn't close to his guy.
He had nobody. He was covering nobody. Yeah.
Well, he can always adjust to where the puck goes, but Heineman shouldn't have been taking the pass away. He should have been going right at that defenseman and making him move the puck, either down the wall or passing through him somehow, or he blocks the shot. So, you're going to have those mistakes, but they're so glaring one-on-one. The other night in overtime, the switch by Slavkovsky, breaking off of the defenseman who scored the goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it kind of screwed Evans up. Evans is coming behind him to go to McDavid. And then, Slafkovsky leaves and goes to McDavid and just leaves his man alone. So it's so glaring when you miss your man in a man-on-man coverage.
No, you're right, but it's not perfect. But Nux, I remember the month of October like it was yesterday, okay?
Yeah.
And you're right, it's not perfect. They're making mistakes, but Marty deserves, once again, he deserves a lot of credit because you and I and Max Lapierre were together back on Tuesday, the 29th of October. The Canadiens had played Seattle. Okay, they lost 8-2 that night. It's like the worst defensive hockey I think you, myself, Max have seen in a long, long time. It was a joke. We were cracking jokes about it while we were watching the game on how terrible it was. In that month of October, the Canadiens had lost a game in Boston where they gave up 6. They lost a game in Montreal versus Pittsburgh where they gave up 6. They lost a game versus Los Angeles and Montreal where they gave up 4. They lost a game in Montreal the week before, 7-2 to the Rangers. A couple of nights later, they had lost 5-2 versus Buffalo. The night after that, they had lost. They gave up 4 and lost in Philly. And on that night, they lost 8-2. And by the way, a couple of nights later, they went to Washington and they lost and they gave up 6. You take a look at where that team was in October, the way they were playing. And
crazy.
I obliterated Marty for some of the decisions. He wasn't calling timeouts. He wasn't making goalie changes. The hybrid system, nobody knew it. And by the way, the players would tell you that they were confused like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And I obliterated them. And you know what? I mean, I don't think we were making stuff up. It wasn't good.
No,
but
it wasn't good.
At the same time, if you would have told me that 1 month later, because a month later they only got obliterated once, and in December I think they only got obliterated once. If you would have told me that month to month he would have had the team playing that badly, but then made them play that well, and then in December and January, from the middle of December to the middle of the January, have the team playing that great, I would have never believed you.
That road trip around Christmas, I thought they were going to be buried.
Yeah.
Dead and buried. And that changed the whole thing. And, it's funny. I had Lemaire on.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about today's game and what's going on. And, I asked him about playing down low in your own end of the rink. And he was always a zone guy. He said, today you can't play zone. You have to play man on man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You have to play man on man. I said, why is that? He said, because, you can't use your stick like before. You can't be as aggressive to pull and tug on a guy. When you could, that coverage, when you were down low in our day, you could hook on a guy, you could grab him, you could get in his way, you could interfere with him. You can't do that now. So it's like you got to kind of, and there's benefits to both systems, but when you look at it now, playing man on man, some of the negatives of man on man is if you lose body position on the guy you're covering, if you let him between you and the net, they're gonna score a goal. They're gonna get a good scoring opportunity. They're gonna score a goal, or you're gonna take a penalty. Those are the 3 things. And or the goaltender's going to have to make a big save on you. So when you play man on man, you can see when guys get on that weak side and they're in trouble. But they've been playing unbelievable. It's really
they're trying to open up the game though, right? We talked about the fact that you can't hook, you can't interfere, you can't touch, you can't grab. They've taken out the red line. Yeah, like that's a big thing. Like Pierre Maguire said a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about Cole Caulfield became, the fastest to 200 points for the Montreal Canadiens in the last 30 years.
Yep.
And Pierre Maguire, like everyone knows, Cole Caulfield's a good player by now, I would hope. But he said, look, deserves a lot of credit. He's a very, very good player. But not so sure that he would have that record, fastest to 200 points for the Canadiens in the last 30 years. If the red line would have been in, because taking out the red line, it's a completely different game now.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's just wide open, know. And again, there's benefits to both. I'd love to see them try it in exhibition season and just see what it does to teams, you know?
Yeah.
And what type of system they play. And to see guys trying to stay on side for a two-line pass, you know? It's like crazy when you think of it.
Yeah.
None of these guys have ever played with a red line.
No.
You know, the red line's for icing. That's it.
But you know what? I think the game's headed in a good place. Really, I do. And look, I've talked about removing fighting from the game in the past, which is not a popular opinion because everybody loves it, right? And I think we saw, and I love fighting. Like I really love fighting. It's just I don't want to see anybody get hurt and all that stuff. But we saw at the Four Nations face-off with the fighting and the talent and the speed and the skill. The game's in a good place right now. Like, it's really good. And I take a look at a lot of players on the Canadiens. I think the Canadiens, I said this before, Gordon and Hughes, they want to be good for a long time. I think the Canadiens are going to be good for a long time. And it's a great time to be doing a podcast about the Canadiens because I think the next 5-6 years.
Yeah, good things are on the way. Listen, it's been frustrating the last 3 years, right? You know, everybody wants more now. And you know, it takes time. Like, look at what Nick. I remember Nick came in here first camp. He was like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Look at him now. He's 25 years old. Look amazing. At the maturity level.
He's amazing.
The way his game has gone. Like all of that, and it takes time. We would like everybody was like crying about Slafkovsky. Oh my God, he's this, he's that. He's still a boy.
Yeah.
He got a man's body, but he's a boy. He's a boy when it comes to playing the NHL. He had to learn a lot of things. Remember how he was getting hit the first year all the time?
Getting tagged with his head down.
Yeah.
Because those are old habits are hard to break, right? He always used to play like that, but now he got into the best league in the world, and you got no time, you got no space, you got to have your head up. But
it takes time.
Yeah, no, he's young. He's going to be good, eh? He's going to be good. Like a lot of once I've heard some people say, trade him this, that, whatever. No.
No, he's going to be that power forward one day, and you're going to see it. You'll see.
I can't guarantee that he'll be the best player from that draft year because I think Lane Hudson and Shane Wright and Logan Cooley will have their say, but Slafkovsky is going to be good. And you know what? I said 5 or 6 years.
But Tone, you know what?
Dub's going to come in on an entry level. Plus, he'll be there. It could be closer to 10 years.
But Tony. Good. Right? And the one thing, when you say those other guys might be better, what's one of the things we bitched and moaned about with this team?
No size.
No size. There you go. They all these little guys, and it's okay to have a few little guys, but you got to insulate them with size. So Slafkovsky with the talent, the size, all that, he is a beast. And, I just think we're going to see really good things coming from him down the road. And
so now that you're so excited to talk about this team, Nux, and we agree, get ready because knowing Agnello, the Habs play on Tuesday night at 10 p.m. and on Wednesday night in Seattle at 10:30 p.m. He's probably going to ask you to post game at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, let me look at my schedule.
No,
I'm going to look.
No, we're not going on the air.
Are you going? Because I was saying if you're going, I would help you out.
I don't think so. I haven't talked to Agnello yet, but I don't think we're going on the air Tuesday or Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't think so.
Get this. I go to Newfoundland on the 24th, Monday. I'm there till Sunday the 30th. Sunday the 30th, I get back at 11:37 in the morning.
Wow.
I have a 4:44 flight to London the same day, that night, that afternoon. Okay, the 30th of this month, and I'm going to see Liverpool play in their derby. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Luis, my buddy Luis Marinaro, is a huge Liverpool fan, but dying for me to go there, and he got tickets behind the net, like really nice seats. So yeah, I'm excited as hell.
Wow.
I've never been. I did go to one game. When I was there, we were there with Proby, and we were playing in around where the British Hockey
Yeah.
League plays. We were playing games over there. And we went to a game in Nottingham Forest, but they were relegated at the time. They were down in the minors. And it was kind of cool, but to go there, it's going to be awesome.
So I've never been to a game in England. I've been to England before. I visited, Manchester United Stadium. But you know what? I keep saying I got like next year. I gotta go. My youngest loves Arsenal a lot. He really wants to go watch an Arsenal game. But everyone says that the experience, if you're going to go to one stadium, you're going to go to one game, you got to go watch Liverpool. That's
Never walk alone, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna. I cannot wait. That's the one place, honestly. I'm excited as hell about. So it'll be fun. Listen, Tony, thank you so much, buddy, for joining me. I appreciate it. And
my pleasure.
You ever need me, I'm around. All right,
Thanks,
buddy?
Nux. I know that. You always have been and you always will be. You are a number one teammate on a hockey team and at a radio station.
All right, brother.
Cheers. See you, Nux.
Take care, Tony.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Yeah, well, listen, everybody, thanks for joining Knuckles here this week. Really appreciate it. Like I said, I've been MIA for a couple of weeks there in Hawaii, but I'm back now, and I'm going to be traveling again soon, Newfoundland and over to England. So but I'll still be here, and you can check me out next week here on Real Talk. And thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Raw Knuckles with Chris Nilan on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.